Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fiocca. Today's September 4, 2024. Want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Please subscribe. Also want to thank Frank Zappa for our mutual interest is what got us together with today's guest, Slim. What in the heck is your real name? I want you to pronounce it because I probably would jumble it.
Okay. Bassam Habal.
Bassam Habal. I could have said that.
Yeah, sure.
Slim is real. Go ahead.
Let me tell you, I had an old principal in the 4th and 5th grade, and before every morning convocation or whatever, he would list the names of people whose office he needed to see them in. Who needed to see him in his office. You didn't want to be on that list, and he butchered everybody's name historically. I was Bassam Habal, and Elliot Childers was Elliot Childers. And as my dear friend Martin, I hadn't seen in 30 years, said, you did not want to be called on that guy's list.
Well, it's a real pleasure and honor to be here with you today, Slim.
Thanks for having me, Jerry.
Oh, where are you calling in from?
I'm in the swamps of Sausalito.
Swamps of Sausalito. That's cool. The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being, the best thing for a human being probably would be a mutual support and solidarity.
I love that. Mutual support and solidarity.
And the best thing that you can be in life is an inspiration to others.
Really good. Thank you. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
Usually right-wing news media. Oh. my favorite form of inspiration. Information probably comes from a voice inside my head that usually is an intuitive guide to do something. It usually tells me to stay home and clean the guns. But when it doesn't do that, it says, "Hey, don't you want to leave? Don't go to the bathroom. You're going to miss the guy coming out of the hotel, and you're going to miss your picture or whatever." So, listening to the inner voice, I would say that
the inner voice was great. I think that inner voice sometimes says about cleaning guns. It says, "Figure out another T-Bone Walker lick, dude." I'm really impressed with your guitar playing and your tutorials on guitar. So why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Why do humans collect or gather information? Well, in this day and age, and I live with a guy, he believes he has to watch the news every morning at 8 a.m. to quote, be informed, to be on top of it. So probably the answer would be to think they have some sort of control, to feel like they're in control.
Yeah.
I would probably say that.
That's like pull the wool over your own eyes.
Yeah.
So is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented?
I mean, depends what it is. For me, I like to say they beat a lot of things out of kids, historically. But one thing they never beat out of me is my, and I survived it intact from when I was a kid, was my curiosity.
Yeah.
So in that sense, my ability to gather information is based on my sort of curiosity. Hey, that was a hell of a drum groove on this pop song from 1976, and it was some session drummer. I wonder who played that. And then you find out who played that, and then you go, well, what else did he do? You're right.
Yeah.
So that as a personal thing for me, it's based off of my curiosity of, wow, that was amazing. I wonder who that was.
Yeah, dude, I'll give you a good example. On the Venice Boardwalk, my friend meets up with me and we talk about music all the time. And he goes, what was Tower of Power's favorite funk song that they didn't do a cover of? And I goes, what? And he goes, Funky Broadway by Dyke and the Blazers. I goes, what? How could I have not heard of that song? I've heard of Funky Broadway from Wilson Pickett, but Dyke and the
Sure.
Blazers. Then I go home and research, and it's like James Gatson on drums. It's a one band, like one, they didn't put out a lot of songs, but it's an amazing funk song. And it was like, how did I not know this? And that's my curiosity is I got to go home and find out the history of this song, especially because the band's name was like Dyke and the Blazers.
Yeah. Or Lester Christian, if I may. And I had a wonderful, just a side note, got to interview James Gatson. He invited me into a studio during the pandemic. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. And this is really, I maintain that this is the attitude you need to have. At the end of, and I still think it's one of the most beautiful things I ever heard. James, at the end of the interview, James said, hey, James, thanks for talking with me. Thanks for inviting me into the studio and hanging out with me. And he goes, I'm fortunate in life. I got to play with a lot. I got to play with a lot of wonderful, wonderful musicians, and I'm glad I got to contribute.
Yeah. How cool.
What it would, if everyone in the music world could have the same attitude of gratitude, but unfortunately that's not the case.
Attitude of gratitude, so perfect, because the dude is like, the mama heartbeat of Bill Withers hits. People don't realize that's the shit right there. Okay, so do thoughts create emotions?
Do thoughts create emotions? Absolutely.
Yeah. Fill in the blank, Slim. I don't know what I think until I
experience it.
Yeah, I get that a lot. McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. Can humans think without language?
Absolutely.
Chomsky says language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Find non-verbal ways of communication.
Yeah.
And the greatest thing, two people can get together from different cultures and play music together.
Yeah.
Right. Not speaking a single sharing the similar at least verbal language, but music is you could argue music is a language into itself. And what did Crosby say? If you smile at me, I will understand, because that is something everyone does in the same language.
Beautiful. Your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
Are we more thinking or more feeling? No, I would probably argue more feeling.
Yeah. That's what most people say. They go, I think we're more feeling. Bridget Bardot says, when I make love, I don't think. I'm like, good luck. Like, it's like people who meditate, they go, think about not thinking. And, we invented the words thinking and feeling. We think we can separate them, but there's a bumper sticker on a car in my street. It says, don't believe everything you think. And I go, well, you could say, don't believe everything you feel.
Yeah, agreed.
These are two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Can I get a lifeline on that, Bob? Yeah. If I have to guess, I'd say yes, but that's a hard one to answer.
Second Turing question, can machines think?
No.
Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I would probably say I more pursue happiness.
Yeah, because Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning book, he says, happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning does.
Yeah, I'm sort of a happiness. I'm kind of a happiness junkie. Yeah.
Yeah. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
I think we're more so detecting it.
Yeah. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Probably speed of thought.
There's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right. Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rayner, a colleague, said, no, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
For tearing down the master's house?
Well, here's the thing. I'm glad you asked, Slim, because just because I open these questions with cue quotes doesn't mean you have to apply them. That's you put in the context you want. I'm basically saying, what tool do you most gravitate towards? You can add the word new if you want, and you can add the phrase dismantling the master's house if you want.
Okay, what tool would I use? What tool would I use to dismantle the master's house? Energy, I guess.
Oh, that is a good one. I never get that. That's very practical. What new toy do you suggest?
What new toy do I suggest? Probably the same old ones.
Yeah.
Public participation, mutual support and solidarity, and it's not about a matter of that they about, hey, we just need to, in a political sense, we need to convert more people, quote, quote, to our side. No, there's plenty. You need to awaken and energize those who are already there. It's not a matter of. It's not a matter of convert. I'm getting convinced. So a friend of mine said, he posted on Facebook, Trump did not help overturn Roe v. Wade. I'm like, you can say all the things you want, but when a guy comes on and goes, no one's ever been able to do it but me, it's because if you don't take a guy at his word, like from what he said in not like out an actual video, then there's I'm going to convert that guy.
Yeah. Dude, that's Cindy Sheehan. She protested the war years ago on Bush
I remember her. Yep.
Front yard. She says, we're only talking to we're only preaching to the choir, and there ain't even a choir. Okay, what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
What do I worry about when I go to bed at night? When am I going to move out of Sausalito and down to Southern California?
That's good. Yeah, I do want to plead with you. Don't call LA boring, because if you next time you come to town, here's
the thing, Jerry. LA is not boring, but I have a friend of mine who's let's just say he's touched, or maybe he's challenged, and he goes, LA is boring. And anytime I'll meet whoever, or I'll have an amazing experience, I'm like, here I was in quote, quote, boring LA. I just met Green in boring LA. I just met Mel Brooks in boring LA. I just went to a great party at Pamela DeBar's in boring LA.
Right.
And his logic is, well, what good bands have come out of? He goes, well, the great thing about the Bay Area is you can walk everywhere. So when there's a show in Berkeley, I'm like, so you're walking there, right? You don't need a ride. No. What do you mean? I thought you only had to drive in LA. Anyway, he's a story for another time.
Yeah, one of my favorite filmmakers, Craig Baldwin's like that. He hates LA and he lives in the Bay and in the Mission District, and it's like, get over it. Because I was going to say, Slim, the next time you're in LA, come to Venice and we'll go walk on the boardwalk and I'll show you what boring isn't.
No, it's and so I called quote unquote LA boring out of that sarcasm.
Yeah.
And when I moved to the Bay Area, I was cajoled and strong armed. When are you going to move to the Bay Area? This place is paradise.
Yeah.
And I was just a couple weeks ago. I was in a hotel room in Pasadena on the trip that I met Moon and the Stinkfoot and that with Arthur and Lisa and all that. And here people get a super gaga over Mount Tam, which to me from New England is just another rolling hill in New Hampshire. Number one, number two, and they get gaga over the Golden Gate Bridge, and they keep taking pictures. I'm like, take a picture of the sign that says Bridge Toll 925. Take a picture of that next time you do it. And so my backyard in Pasadena of my 2-star hotel room was the beautiful mountains of Altadena. And I almost posted, hey, I'm sorry it ain't Mount Tam. I'm sorry it ain't the Golden Gate Bridge. Not exactly paradise, but it's what I had to deal with.
Yeah.
The people in the Bay Area have lived here so long that they hold on to like the fact that they went to high school here. But their high school has been bulldozed and is now a Walmart, but they don't care.
Yeah. In the words of Thingfish, I've got your boring LA hanging. Okay. McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound, the poet, that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Slim, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Probably some people would say, too painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine who was a bad alcoholic, and I said, Ernie, well, I don't mind calling him by his first name. People know him. That I won't call him out by his last name, but they said, I said, Ernie, do you ever think about looking in the mirror and like reflecting? He goes, it's too painful.
Yeah.
Kind of sad.
Do artists have moral obligation?
No, I believe so.
Yeah,
absolutely. And even if it's not through their art, because I remember talking to musician Roger Kellaway, and I said I had a great lunch with him, and he said, I said, well, I believe the goal, or the ultimate goal of being an artist, musician, artist, whatever, is to become a better human being.
Yeah.
A better, more evolved human being. And Roger said to me, he goes, well, that's one of the paths. So even if you don't use your art for those means, I think it's your job becoming a quote, quote, hopefully more evolved human being. You do have a moral obligation.
Yeah, I think it's bottom line. We're all here to make the world a better place.
Sure.
So are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Probably new ideas.
Yeah. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Yeah. I swear. I mean, it's brutal to say, but I think I was in a crib, and I was crying, and no one came to my rescue. And I remember thinking, I thought if you cried, that people would come to your rescue.
No woman, no cry.
In the crib, I thought that. Yep. I think that was one of my earliest memories.
That's heavy. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
I think it depends. Depends on what you remember.
Yeah.
I have. As I like to say, this year I reconnected with old friends I hadn't seen in 30 years, and we shared a lot of wonderful memories of the past, and laughed our butts off, and it was great. And some people go, well, I don't have any old friends or whatever their excuse was. And to me, I mean, they're like, well, I had friends. They said, well, I had friends in high school that didn't like me. Well, see, yeah, me too. But I'm not going to go. I'm not going to travel, 3,000 miles to go see him and talk about. Hey, remember when you shoved my face in the sandbox or whatever? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not going to dredge up. Yeah, I had an old friend of mine, Brian, rest in peace. He used to say about certain memories. He said some onions don't need to be pulled back. I agree
Yeah.
with that.
It's good.
Why poke at the scab? Some people think if you keep poking the scab, it's going to heal. No, let the scab be.
Yeah. Get over it. That's my friend is a distant relative of Gustav Mahler, and he wrote a
Okay.
song, Get Over It. Move on. So tell me someone within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
Okay. Uh, in my outside, I think I got to say in my outside family, okay, probably my immediate family. Obviously, I think about my sister who passed about a year ago and turned me on to a lot of great music, including the White Album, some Bob Marley stuff. Definitely brought home the First Minute Work album, Def Leppard's Pyromania. Turned me on to a lot of great music, so I would say definitely been influenced. And thank God, my mother purchased. I don't have it, but I could show you it. I bought a bass in 1984 because I wanted to play bass, and it's sitting over in the corner. It's the same bass that I played for 40 years. I never bought a single bass, so that was pretty important as I'm musically inclined. And outside my, I would have to say, I got to give it to my old music teacher who I got to see after 30 years, who showed me some of my first stuff on guitar, and got me headed in the right direction and on the path. So his name was
Beautiful.
Dr. LeBaron, and I got to see him, and the mighty F bar chord on guitar, which is a very difficult thing to play. Every time it's his birthday on Facebook, I say, hey, Doc, thanks for showing me the mighty F bar chord.
How cool is that? You're really concise and articulate, Slim. I appreciate it. And we'll get into music a little more. Just a few more philosophical questions. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
I was a non-practicing Muslim, so as I like to say, when I was a kid, I learned that you're not supposed to drink, and you're not supposed to eat pork. Well, the drinking thing I did for a while, as many late teenagers and college kids do. I gave it all up 30 years ago, but that's another story entirely. And I never had a pork chop and became a vegetarian about 30 some odd years, and will probably go to my grave not having, in some people's opinion, the joy of eating a pork chop.
Yeah. Slim, do you pray?
Yes, but it's more a visualization than a prayer.
Yeah.
Although sometimes when things get so bad, you throw up your hand and go like, God, get me out of here.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a desperation prayer, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. No, a woman a couple weeks ago, I says, do you pray? And she goes, yeah, for parking places. Okay. If God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
He would say, why didn't you follow all the advice and leads that I gave you?
Yeah. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Oh, evil people definitely exist.
Well, the real question, Slim, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of prompts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, How would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's true to an extent, but you also can't ignore their existence. Say the bear was your enemy. You're about to get eaten by the bear. You don't want to walk through life or walk through the woods, you know, not acknowledging that the bear is your enemy that's going to eat your ass. You definitely want to acknowledge that. How do you deal with your enemy? Well, I would say try to avoid them if you can, and if not, kill them with kindness.
Kill them with kindness. I love
Yeah.
on your Facebook page, it says, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yes,
That's beautiful. But it's
I
also
stole that
there's
from Michael Jackson.
Say it again.
I stole that from Michael Jackson. Yeah.
Oh, great. So that's leads us to Nassim Taleb said, games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. My friend said, villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. And Gregory Bateson, anthropologist, says, if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So again, it's a lot of thoughts, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
Does punishment work? It can.
Yeah.
It's not the be all end all, but it can work. For people. Say someone goes to jail for someone's a bad alcoholic, and they need to basically they need to stop drinking. Signs have been given, dude, you need to stop drinking. They ignore the signs. I don't care. Let me get fucked up again. And then they end up in jail. They're being punished. They're in jail. And they're like, you know what? This sucks. And when I get out of here, I ain't never coming back. So in that sense, a punishment would work.
Yeah. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin about 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Sometimes certain things are maybe they become clearer on a stage, and certain certain things like I could watch a movie about a guy on a tightrope. Well, I'm certainly not going to be the guy on the tightrope walking between two buildings, but I might vicariously live through some other guy's experience that I'm watching in a movie.
Yeah. So Slim, walk us through your career, your tipping points. Like, you're a musician and an author, basically.
Yeah.
Those are your two callings.
Yeah.
Where what are you studying in high school if you went to college, and where did you go? Oh, I can do that. Like, where's your tipping point to say that's my calling?
Well, I mean, basically, I went to a good school and learned how to, had great English classes. And a friend of mine said, even though, we shit on the school that we went to, we did get a good education. And I'll give him, he was spot on about that. In college, I was a psychology major, and basically what happened, in college, anytime I would go to a class, you look at the intro syllabus, and it says you're going to have to write a 10-page paper this semester. I'd be like, see you later. that scared the shit out of me. But as I like to say, if you asked me to write a 10-page paper on good times and why Norman Lear killed off John Amos's character, I could probably write you a 10-page paper on that.
Yeah.
But so what happened was I was a DJ in Boston on MIT's radio station WMBR for about 20 years, and we did a lot of great interviews, and and then when I moved here, I think the first interview I did was with comedian Rip Taylor at the IHOP across from Barney's Beanery, and it was 40 of the greatest minutes of my life, period, hands down.
Yeah.
And that, but the audio was so clanky and clacky from the plates and the noise, and so I basically transcribed it.
Yeah.
So once I transcribed it, and then I sent it to the Anderson Valley Advertiser, I said, "Wait a second, I can do this. I can have interviews, and I can use software to transcribe them, and then put them out to the world." So I think it was at that point, and then also with all my collection of photos, celebrity photos. I just met Al Green in L.A. and totaling 650 photos. Many people said, "Hey, Slim, when are you going to write a book with all your photos or with some of your photos?" One of these days, mañana. And then one of the positive things that happened during the pandemic is that people were given time that they previously didn't have to do whatever X, Y, and Z that they were dying to do. So the pandemic struck, and now, hey, Slim, here's the time that you wanted. And I had bad ADD and motivation, and I started going to acupuncture, and it gave me a lot of focus and motivation. And I said, well, the time is now, and that's when I wrote my first book, Mighty Slim's Galaxy of Stars, 60 photos and 60 backstories of how I met the people. And now I'm currently on Mighty Slim's Galaxy of Stars Part 2. And I had 59 entries, text entries so far. And once I met Al Green, I'm like, well, that's definitely number 60.
How cool is that? What year was the Rip Taylor about?
Rip Taylor was about maybe 5-6 years ago.
In what year?
Unbelievable.
What year did your first book come out?
Probably about 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
Yep.
So let's do the same question to musician. I mean, you play music a lot. You play with bands, right?
Yeah.
So where was the tipping point where you said, "Oh, I can pursue being a musician and playing music"?
I guess I kind of always, I took piano lessons as a kid, so it was just you go to piano lessons and you do it, and I took up the bass but when what the tipping point for me, and I like to say this, when I started to really, and I've been in bands because, hey, let's, a few chords, I know a few chords, let's get together, and you do it once with someone and it's fun and you do it. I would have to say that my old friend Matt, who was an old a student of mine from the Boston School of Rock, during the pandemic, he posted 100 solos in 100 days. And it was very inspirational. And I saw him in North Carolina. And it really said to me, hey, Slim, get off your ass, pick up the guitar, start taking your music a little more seriously, learn solos and whatnot, and help improve your music. Just like, and the greatest thing, any teacher that says that they don't learn from their students is a fool. Because the students teach the teacher just as much as the teacher teaches the students, and Matt was definitely my inspiration. And when they asked Jimmy Page, did you ever practice scales and whatnot, and Page goes, no, I was too busy learning solos. And my thought is, if it worked for Jimmy Page, it can work for me too.
Yeah. So you mean you were an instructor at School of Rock in Boston? Like, how long did that last?
6 years.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I saw kids from grow from age 12, to 18, and now my buddy Matt, which is wonderful. I don't have any kids of my own that I'm aware of, as I like to say, and for the most part, every one of my kids, I almost see them as my kids. They all grew up. they all grew up to do amazing things. They're playing music. They're doing wonderful things in their life. And Matt, my inspiration, when I saw him in North Carolina, he says, I'm going to law school. And the reason that I'm going to law school is I want to become an entertainment lawyer to make sure that musicians get the credit they deserve, that the credit they're owed, and the money they're deserved.
How cool
Perfect.
is that?
My work is done. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So a screenwriting teacher told me great art, great film, great music is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. Let's go with your books first. What role does intention play in your creative process when you're doing your book?
Oh, I think it's everything. And as I like to say, I called my first book like Confessions of an Obsessed Photo Seeker or something like that. So it's real. So I lay it all out, more so in the first book than will be in the second book, of what it's like to be, someone who's obsessed about getting, photos with people or autographs. What's behind that, and what are some things that play into it. So and in the second book, there's more of that as well, saying, look, this is this I mentioned that it's like a hunter-gatherer mentality. Hey, look, there's the green wildebeest that no one's ever bagged. Last time anyone's been seen, with the green wildebeest was 17 AD, and then you go out and there it is, and you go for it and you go, honey, guess what I brought home? The green wildebeest. So it's a real, sort of hunter-gatherer mentality, and yeah. So I want the intent sort of to be clear, and to me, the interesting thing about guitar playing, once you're able to, as I like to say, especially about people like Zappa, and I said it in my second book, the more you grow as a musician, the more I think you're able to hear the compositional intent. You're able to follow more of the melody and whatnot. And especially, I think about certain guitar solos of Zappa's that maybe as a kid I enjoyed, maybe on a more emotional level. But now, if you can really follow what Frank was doing, you can still have that emotional aspect and hear sort of the energy and the grit he put into it. But you can also follow sort of compositionally what he was doing in the solo, and that would be, of course, the intention.
That's really well put, man. It's the inner and the outer world.
Yeah.
Really good. So the Marcel Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your reader when you're writing your book?
There's got to be, if I mention, you have to acknowledge them a little bit, and musically you have to acknowledge, that there's an audience there.
Yeah.
I play nursing homes, and I'll get back to the book in a second. But I play nursing homes, and a friend of mine who was absolutely clueless once said, you don't play like Grateful Dead and Neil Young songs at the nursing homes. And I had Too Much to Dream last night by the Electric Prunes. And I said, no, I'm playing songs that they're familiar with, that they know. I'm there for them. I'm not there to feed my own ego. And as I like to say, when I play the nursing home gigs, I often say, hi, I'm Sausalito Slim, and you're going to know about 80 to 90% of my material, because wouldn't it be horrible if I played an hour show and I left and you turned to your friend and said, that guy played an hour, I didn't know a single one of his songs.
Yeah.
So you want to acknowledge the audience. And in the book, of course, when I describe somebody like Michael Monarch, who was the guitar player from Steppenwolf. So I mentioned he was a guitar player from Steppenwolf and who had such big hits as blah, blah, blah. Or I met Peter Rivera from Rare Earth. So I'm going to say he was in a band, Rare Earth, who had such hits as blah, blah, blah. So if people don't know who Peter Rivera was, they might not know who Rare Earth was. but they might know the cover of Get Ready, and they might know I Just Want to Celebrate. So yeah, so I have to acknowledge, I have to sort of lead in with that, just in case people go, I never heard of him. Who's that?
No, I love Peter. That guy is, the white dude signed to Motown. He
Yeah.
plays before 100,000 people at the US Festival, and then you can see him on YouTube, and he's still playing. But sometimes it's on the street as a street musician. I'm like, this guy loves music. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
And I'm sure, it gets to him a little, but really amazing. And my wife is a pro jazz singer, and she used to do Alzheimer's nursing home.
Great.
And so these people they kind of, are listening, but she would sing a Burroughs song called The Girl with the Three Blue Eyes. And all of a sudden, one of these Alzheimer patients started singing along.
That's right. That's right. They've come to you. They've come to. You've brought them out of their state, even if it's for 8 bars, and they go back into their comatic state or whatever they're in. And one time I was leaving a place that I was a regular at before they got a coup and got rid of me. But that's another story entirely. But anyway, so I'm leaving, and the activities director goes, "How was the gig? How was the show today?" I said, "I saw somebody come to. It was a success."
Yes. Okay, Slim, McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extends our teeth. The shutter in a camera is extended by our eyelid is extended by the shutter in a camera, a projector. And maybe even non-tangible, say religion or philosophy, might be an extension of consciousness. What is 2 tools you use, the camera and the guitar? What does the camera extend for you? What humanness?
My layman's answer would definitely be the eyes, but as well the eyes, and definitely the feeling. Eyes and definitely the feeling.
What does the guitar extend for you? What humanness?
Probably the deep on my best playing is when I'm really getting into it, it expresses the deepest the deepest, maybe even buried emotions on the deepest level.
That's heavy. Buried emotions. I like that.
Yeah,
so,
I remember the very first time I owned Live at the Fillmore East by the Allman Brothers, but I owned it and I heard it, or I owned it and I listened to it, but I never quote heard it. And then one particular, shall we say, psychedelic evening, coming back from an Allman Brothers show in '89, I put it on, and I really, what I heard was for the very first time clearly the expression and the emotion in music in Dwayne's playing and Dickie's playing. I'm like, wow, and that has always been a pivotal, influential moment for me.
Yeah, very good. An amazing album. And so, what's the function of music?
The function of music, I think I would argue it's to lift spirits.
Yeah. In fact, that's sort of what John Cage learned from his teacher, to soothe the soul and make it susceptible for divine intervention.
I like that. Excellent.
Aaron Copeland says the 4 ingredients of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. First of all, what is tone color in normal terms, not musical academic terms? What is tone color?
Tone color is I would almost argue a vibration.
Vibration, very good. So how do you integrate focus say you're writing a Slim song,
Yeah.
melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. How do you integrate those four elements? Is there one you lean more towards, or there, you know,
Yeah, I would argue, tone color, at least, is something that, as a guitar player, it all comes right here in the hands, and and I've seen a billion videos of here, some guy playing three different guitars, and the differences are it's about 5% difference in all the guitars. And that's what's amazing, I think, about and I'll talk about melody in a second, at the Guitar Center on the Sunset. Raman's Chinese Theater has the handprints of actors. And do actors use their hands? Sure. Is it that important? Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I talk with my hands. Chomsky always said, I'm Jewish. I talk with my hands. But to me, what's amazing about the Guitar Center on Sunset is the handprints of musicians, because the hands for musicians are everything. So I think I'm like, now we're actually talking something that has meaning. And the most amazing thing, before I get back to the other answer, is that and it's still amazing to see Zappa's handprints. I'm almost choked up right now. And the date, it says October 1993, and a couple months later, Frank had passed. So that was every time I see that, and even talking about it now, it's pretty moving, But
wow, I've never seen that, Slim. Thanks for telling me. So that's on Sunset Strip.
The Guitar Center on Sunset Strip. Yep.
Oh my
you'll be moved at the date of the Zappa handprints.
oh my God, I never knew that, because I have to interject this. If you ever want, I've sort of wanted to advertise this, but I never did. Anyone can pick me up in Venice, and we'll go through LA with the Freak Out Hotspots map, and I'll show you where every hotspot is on that map, and I'll add about 10 others, like where Frank recorded Freak Out. It's still there. Where he worked at a record store, all these little hotspots. And I never knew that one. And that's one that has to be on that list, because it's like the Zappa Hotspots tour of LA.
I'm down. So in my own writing, I'm a melody fanatic. I've been a melody fanatic. I was just talking to a friend of mine. I've been a melody fanatic since I was a kid, and and music, at least in the pop sense, music taught us that that a great pop song can be basically diluted to its essence, which is the melody, and music showed us that. And so and to me, the melody is a thing that to me the ear latches onto. And they're great songs that have great rhythmic things going on, but to me, if a song doesn't have I'm more excited if a song has a good melody than not. And a friend of mine who his songs have no discernible melodies, I once said, "Well, play me what the melody is on the guitar," and he couldn't. And there's a fellow songwriter here who I love, and he goes, "Oh, you like that heavy melodic stuff?" I'm like, "It's not necessarily heavy melodic stuff. I like songs that have, I don't know what they call, an actual discernible melody."
Dude, I can delineate that in Zappa terms really well.
Yeah.
Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart, Frank and Don would drive around LA in Don's dad's old bakery truck and listen to the greasy, LA rock and roll that I talked about at the Lodge Room. This was LA, East LA R&B, it's called. And they would listen to those songs, and the solos weren't so much guitars. They were saxes on those early ones.
You bet.
It was Plaz Johnson who played, Pink Panther theme.
Sure.
It was Joe Houston all night long, and they would sing the sax solos. So when Frank put out Overnight and Apostrophe, those two albums, those guitar solos are singable. That's what he was tapping into his sensibility with Don to play solos that were singable. So most of us can sing the solos on Apostrophe and Overnight. That's why those are the songs that all the Zappa cover bands do. 50-50, all those same songs that everybody, does over and over as the big standouts in the Zappa tribute bands. And we know Stinkfoot does it the best.
It's funny. I haven't done it yet, but I was once going to embark on learning nothing but 50 sax solos. Try to do a 50 sax solo day for a month and see what that does to my playing, because those guys want to play better than, because there was no wasted notes. They were melodic. There was musical ideas, and they once said, and they weren't just wanking. I think they asked Miles Davis, Miles, what advice would you give horn players? And he goes, take the horn out your goddamn mouth.
That is so cool. We're getting to that. That very question's coming up. Dude, you have ESP. You anticipated that. But this one comes first. My friend says the 3 T's of music are taste, technique, and theory. Technique, you've learned how to play guitar. Theory, you know the structure. How does one acquire taste?
I would say, to me, and the taste thing is, you try to be, for me at least, I know what I enjoy, right? What I want to hear from a guitar solo, or I want to hear from a song, or whatever. So the best thing that you can be is meeting those standards that you judge for other people with your own work.
Yeah.
And sometimes I listen back to some of my guitar solos live and go, wow, like I've met the standards of what I personally want to hear in a guitar solo. So that's what I would say to that.
That's good. McLuhan said an interesting thing. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any comment?
Geez, yeah, that's a deep one. I'll get back to you at 4 a.m. on that one.
No worries. What's more fundamental, language or music?
Music.
Tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
What's an instrumental that makes me laugh? The Moog solo on "Let Me Take You to the Beach."
Oh my God, that is good. I love that song, man. That is such a wild song. In fact, those albums are amazing. That I actually were lather. That is.
I once was hardcore to press Max Bennett on there, and we found this later. We found out the answer later in the Hot Rats box set. I asked Max, I said, what do you remember about recording "Let Me Take You to the Beach"? Because he's on. And he goes, what? I asked him a couple times. He go, what the hell are you talking about? And later we learned in the Hot Rats box set is that, and Max told me, we had a couple days where we jammed, and maybe Frank had some sort of structure, but it was a lot of jamming going on. And then Frank took those tracks, put vocals on top of it, and later became "Let Me Take You to the Beach." But at the time, I'm like, how was he not aware that he was on "Let Me Take You to the Beach"? Right.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I got to tell you this. I called up Shelly Mann. He was on KCRW in Santa Monica. And at the end of the interview, I called up the studio and I says, could I ask Shelly Mann a quick question? And he goes, yeah. What was it like to play with Frank Zappa? I mean, he's one of the great jazz drummers of all time.
Sure.
He said, that guy knew what he wanted and he got what he wanted. That's a heavy thing coming from Shelly. There's another time I interviewed George Duke and a bunch of Zappa people about the song eccentrical force because it's about Corla Pandit. You know that guy? He played organ on TV in the 50s. If you don't, Google it. You'll
Okay,
freak out.
yeah.
So the song says Corla
Plankton.
Plank. Yeah, well, that's Corla
Right.
Pandit. He's
Yeah.
referring to a guy who disguised himself for 6 decades as an Indian with a turban.
Yeah.
And indeed, he was a black man. So it's a long story. So I'd ask these people, Pamela DeBars, George Duke, did Frank anticipate that Corla Pandit was black by singing the words, him and me can play the blues? You don't play blues with Indian guys unless you're like Ry Cooder, but you don't play the blues with Indian guys. So did Frank know that Corla Pandit was black, or did he intuit it and in by writing that lyric?
Sure.
And when and Pamela DeBars was, her answer was great. She goes, both. And George Duke said, I think Frank said something about that. But, I never got to ask Frank whether he knew Corla, because some people knew Corla Pandit was black, but most people don't. The Muffs, you might know the band The Muffs, they recorded with Corla Pandit, and they couldn't tell that he was black. They go, oh, I thought he was Indian, because he was a light-skinned black. But here's a question, Ruth Draper. The key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. Hey, that sounds good, but how do you do that? When you're playing live, how do you bring the audience up onto the stage with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's you kind of, yeah, I would say you got it probably just by being open, being an open channel, and acknowledging the energy that they're providing you. Some people are so caught up in their own little ego-driven worlds that they don't realize that there's an audience. The audience is responding. The audience is giving back, giving back energy. And the Grateful Dead saying, let the music play the band. And in the same way that any old Deadhead will tell you this: if the audience, you go into it, I'm an old Deadhead. You go to a show and the audience was on fire, it was going to be a great show. Because because that was the conduit for creating the music.
Yeah, well, I'm
not the other way around.
Right, because I was a Deadhead before they called us Deadheads too, and I love when Frank says you got to tighten your headband during Jerry's guitar solo. That is one of the greatest lines ever. I saw
the glue.
I saw Garcia open for Frank.
In 81
in Chicago. And It was amazing because the audience, Deadhead, Zappa freaks in the West Coast are snotty. They don't like the Dead, but the East Coast Deadheads love Zappa, and they would applaud during the middle of a guitar solo by Frank. And I said, that never happened at Zappa shows. And so, do you know the one song? And then I love Rodney Bingenheimer said the Dead killed rock and roll, but it needed killing. But anyways, do you know the name of the song that both the Dead did and Frank did? I'll cut to the chase.
Handsome Cabin Boy.
That's it, dude. You got it, man. I didn't even have. Okay, here's Leonard Cohen. The only way you can sell a concert is if you put yourself at risk. And if you don't do that, people know. What role does risk play in your creative process?
Yeah, I would sort of say that, I once asked Dickie Betts, first off, when I asked, there's a side note, when I asked him if he'd ever heard Zappa's version of whipping post, and he goes, "Oh man, I love Frank. I love everything you did. Only 13 and she knows how to nasty." To hear Dickie Jack's brown shoes don't make it is tremendous. But one of the great radio moments of all time. But I said, "So Dickie, what's the secret to getting in the zone?" And he said, "Get out of the way."
Yeah.
So that's the risk where you're abandoning your ego. You're kind of abandoning control, and you're trying to let it flow. That would be the risk.
That's what Don Preston told me. He says, "Don't think." It's like, yeah, good luck. It sounds romantic too. It's like, yeah, you got this Rolodex of solos in your head and combinations, and you don't think. But I think you put it, get out of the way and get into the flow is good. And here's Viola Spolin. If the audience cannot see your struggle to achieve something, they cannot root for you to achieve it. What role does struggle play in your creative process?
Probably not so much. Only the struggle would only be in, like I said, where you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants. You don't know what's coming next, and the struggle really would be to be in the moment and let it flow. I always say that the secret, and that's true, I think, in life, the secret in life, is getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
And when the thoughts come in and you second guess yourself and blah blah blah, but when the Monday morning quarterbacking is going on, you go, why didn't I just let it flow? It was flowing, and then you go, well, we can't. I don't know about that, and so so I almost try in life to sort of practice improvisation in a life sense, where you're trying to be in the flow and get out of your own way.
I worked for George Carlin right after Zappa, and we got a flyer in the mail, and it says, "I'm trying to get more control over my spontaneity." Okay, here's Ben Ratliff. He wrote a book on Bill Frisell. He says, "I mean sound as it has long functioned among jazz players, as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that at best it can be heard in a single note." So me and you could kind of hear a couple notes and go, "That's Frank."
Right.
Ben says, well, and he puts it in 2 words. He said, Miles Davis, fragile and pointed. Bill Frisell, wobbly and woozy. If a writer of music that you really respect was going to summarize Slim's sound, what 2 words would you say? Hey, he got me.
To describe me, honest and energetic.
That's good. Honest and energetic. Very good. You're a wordsmith, my friend. Okay. So, what's more important, conviction or compromise?
Conviction.
What was the motive of the cave artist? Your guess or hunch?
Say that again.
The motive of the cave artist. Whether they're cave music, cave dance, but we have documentation of cave art.
Communication.
Communication, yeah. You've accomplished a lot, Slim. In your accomplishments, how do you rate these 3 elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
You froze for a second. Can you hear me? Yeah. So, you said luck, skill, or ambition. Ambition is the first one.
That's
you can have all the skill. You can have all the skill in your, and then skill comes in after that, and luck is third. Yeah. I believe it was Joey Fabian who quoted me, someone that said, "Chance favors the prepared mind."
Oh, that's a great line. Yes, I agree.
And I think about my most recent photo with Al Green. Yeah, I did everything I could. I booked a room next to LAX. You know, I knew what time I had to get up. I booked parking in advance just so I would because it was a Labor Day weekend, so I could go and park, you know, across from the terminals, but I could have a bitch of a time parking things. But so I made all the correct preparations, and then when a friend of mine said it's time to buy a refundable ticket and go meet Al at the gate because now it's crunch time, I could have gotten in my own way and said no, blah blah blah. So I did everything right, got out of my own way, and I would argue that probably 80 to 85% of all success is due to one's actions.
Really good. Well put. I asked Michael Apted, the movie director, 40 years ago, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? Most people don't know that Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922, but it really flourished in the 80s with MTV to the point where Marty Scorsese said, I cut my films faster because of MTV. So when I asked Michael Apted, why do they feel so obliged to edit fast? He says, because we've learned to take in information faster. But I asked this question with a bias. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
Well, I think we're brainwashed to believe we can.
Is it literally possible for humans to multitask?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm juggling a quarter right now as I talk to
you. You know, you touched on this inner dialogue earlier, Slim. Yep. T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
What language is it in? Probably expression.
Yeah. In fact, George Manupelli and Jonas Mekas, my two film heroes, said there is no self-expression. Ignore yourself. Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist who Frank listed in Freak Out, said, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making, music making more self-expression or more your vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and are dominant?
I would have to argue both on that one, and but in the pure, I guess in the purest sense, it comes through you and then goes through the sort of the expression the expression channel, I guess, and comes out the other side.
Yeah. No, I like both is good, but can art making be egoless?
Sure. To up to a point, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I love when people say that because
I remember saying, you know, I mean, the old, you know, you've heard of LSD before with regards to musicians. It's called lead singer disease. And unfortunately, the many people I've met who've been great, gracious, and humble have all been, you know, session musicians and the side guys. So,
yeah.
It was their. They weren't getting any work if they were coming in going, do you know who I am? And pushing everyone around and having a big head. They might have a big head and that they're confident in their skill set, but they're not going to put, you know, but as far as, so everyone I've met in that regards has been great, humble, super wonderful human beings, great vibe. And then I think about lead singers, like the time I met, attempted to get Jim Messina to sign a Loggins and Messina album. He turned me down, and then I was across the street going to try for a photo, and then I said, you know, this guy doesn't want to do it, and he's not into it. I'm leaving, and then he decided to film me leaving with his cell phone, like he was paranoid I was going to show up at his hotel with a Sharpie, going sign my record.
Wow!
I'm like, oh, he must have LSD. Lead singer disease.
you taught me a new one. I love that, Slim. But I want to tell you about being a vehicle. James Brown, because you talked about side guys. James Brown's drummer They said, "You're the architect of funk drumming. Where'd you get this from?" He says, "I'm in Ohio growing up, and there's a factory on one side of my house and a train track on the other. So it was like boom, boom. They asked Ginger Baker, "Where'd you get your drum sound from?" He says, "I'm in London when they're bombing. Boom, 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 boom." You know, so then, you know, the band Negative Land, great
Sure.
experimental band in your area. John, I said, asked him all these questions, and he says, "Well, I got a good one for you. Missy Elliott learned how to sing from car alarms." Okay, so is perception reality?
No.
Lewis Carroll says, "I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast." Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Have I believed in any impossible things lately? I don't know. Probably no, but close to impossible. Uh, as I like to say, I will say in my Mighty Sims Galaxy of Stars 2, the sequel. Once I finally landed the ever moody, it was very difficult Al Green, and got a photo with Al Green from my collection. I left. I left. I went to the bathroom going, I can't believe that just happened. So that was
Woo!
that was close to impossible in my estimation, but I was willing to give it a shot.
You did good, dude. And have you ever heard George Clinton's song about his Al Green girlfriend throwing grits on him?
I have not.
Look it up. There's a whole song about Al Green's girlfriend pissed at him and she threw hot grits on him. And George wrote a whole song about it. It's killer.
That's great.
Okay. Tell me one major element, Slim, of your creativeness, whether it's your books or your guitar playing, one major element that stayed the same and one major element that's changed in the years you've been doing this.
One major element is I think about I guess the major element would be the desire to put myself out there and entertain. I think that would be that would be, you know, guitar playing through writing. It's on some level it's entertainment. So I would say that. And as a kid, I did puppet shows and magic shows. So I consider myself an entertainer. I just it all matters of what's the vehicle, I guess. And the thing that has changed has probably the ease, the ease of it all. I think of as I was relearning how to play Miles Davis's "So What" trumpet solo on guitar. Now I learned that a long time ago, and things I didn't understand about it, they were just notes. I understand about it more now. The retention level is better, so that's easier. And I think about as I write Mighty Slim's Galaxy of Stars Part 2, the sequel, the ease of which the first book was a little difficult because it was my first book. Now it's you know, all right, tell the story of Al Green, and it just kind of flows out of me. So it's much. It took a long time for the first book. The entries in the second book were just flowing like the Ganges, because you know, as I like to say, well, people go, I could never do that. It's difficult. Or going to somebody's house and knocking on the door saying, hey, would you sign a couple albums for me? I'm just an old fan. You know, like any, you know, it can be still nerve wracking. The first, like anything in life, it's difficult at first, and it may hopefully get easier the more you do it. But you have to be willing to take that first step.
Yeah, Slim, it's really good because it goes back to Joey Fabian. Chance favors the prepared mind. Yeah. The line I always quote in that regard is Gary Player, the golfer. He says, the more you practice, the luckier you get.
Outstanding.
Okay, so Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Uh, my quirkiness and my weirdness.
Yeah,
I would argue I was a don't fitter, weird, scrawny kid in high school, and I learned to embrace it and go with it.
yeah, it's very good. Fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when
It's used as motivation.
yeah. I asked my friend who wrote comedy with Robin Williams, can satire be destructive? He says that's the job of satire. But if me or you do a cartoon in a certain country and they kill us, some people think death is destructive. So Swift compared satire to a mirror in which people could see every face but their own. In fact, Zappa nailed it. He says, "Watch the Nazis run your town. Now go home and check yourself. You think we're singing about somebody else." What's the function of satire?
Uh, I think, and Frank said it best. If you try to be able to deliver a message that people wrapped in humor that people otherwise would not be able to swallow or be able to
Yeah,
take. And he said, if you know if you said something like, whatever it was, I mean, Trump's an idiot. I don't want to hear that. But if you wrapped it in, or dude, you're to me, you know what I'm saying, or
yeah.
you're trying to deliver the message wrapped in humor, and that they can go, oh, okay, right. So
They get it.
it's more able to be received. Yeah.
What's the function of laughter?
The function of laughter is to almost obviously to lift one's spirits, but it also has an important aspect to me. In maybe in dark times or whatnot, you can listen to music, and that can be powerful to sort of take you out of a particular state. But to me, nothing does it better than comedy.
Yeah,
You listen to, I like that, and be enjoying it. But if somebody makes you laugh, then it can break you out of your state, and even if it's a good state, into a higher state. So I would argue that would be the function.
yeah. Bob Marshall did one of the best interviews with Frank ever. I was there. We were at Frank's house for 7 hours.
Yeah.
Just Google it, Bob Marshall, Frank Zappa. It's an amazing interview. And Bob always said, when you're laughing, you're learning. But Steve Allen said, behind every joke, there's a grievance. Any opinion on that one?
Grievance as in ANC, or grievance as in grieving. Yep.
Yeah, that's good. You're
Right.
listening close. Yeah.
So yeah, I think in satire there's often grievances,
Yeah.
but they're, like I said, they're especially political satire. There's definitely major grievances, but the satire is there to deliver the message in a way that's more better able to be received by folks.
Yeah. Because Gurdjieff said laughter is the reconciliation of yes and no. This goes along with this, Slim. You create what you resist. That's a line. Bob Goldthwait, the Bobcat, the comedian,
For sure.
He morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So I'm curious your thoughts on this line. You create what you resist. Not you, Slim, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. To a degree, you think about, because it just it just kind of happens that way. If you go, and until you, I think it's true until you recognize that you're doing it. Yep.
Yeah.
When you go, hey, like I said, getting out of your own way, self-sabotage. A lot of people have a self-sabotage mechanism that they're not aware of, and they go through life, or I see this in my own life and in my photo seeking adventures and of sabotage, and you go, there it was. But if you see yourself about to sort of watch yourself in slow-mo going, hey, wait a second, there's that self-sabotage thing again, out of here, and then you choose a different path, right?
Yeah. Have you seen that vocal outtake of Frank singing Keep It Greasy? It's 1 minute. It's an unbelievable 1 minute of Frank in the studio making a blooper, and then the engineer doesn't get it, and he says, I didn't get that. And he goes, stupid Hollywood engineers, I laugh once a year and they don't get it. And then Frank says this amazing line. He says, I guess God didn't want it in there anyways.
I think I vaguely remember. I think I have seen that.
It is such study. Everything in that 1 minute really summarizes that you create what you resist. It's sort of like Buñuel and Frank. They would. That's what they. Frank yells in the middle of a song, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Okay, what's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
If a guy tells you he hates your guts, he thinks you're an asshole, chances are he's not going to change his mind 10 seconds later. That's the difference.
Yeah. That's funny because I saw Frank Zappa sing Broken Hearts Are for Assholes in Vegas. And as he's pointing at the audience, you're an asshole, you're an asshole. Yeah. He pointed at himself at one point and goes, you're an asshole. Okay, here's 5.
I was going to say, I also think that men are more literal, and women speak a different language. If a woman says, you're going out with a woman, and the woman goes, I'm sick of men, I hate men, a man would believe, okay, that means me, and I'm out of here. Yeah. But in her estimation, she's saying, in my experience of the men I've been dealing with, they've all been assholes, but I might like you. Right. So that would be the difference.
Yeah. Very good. Men are left brain linear. Yeah. Women are more right brain intuitive. Yeah. And the point is to form partnership where you can fuse both right and left.
Sure.
So these are 5 quick Alan Watts questions off the top of your head in just a couple words. 1, who started it all?
Lee Atwater.
2, are we going to make it?
No.
3, where do we put it?
In the garbage where it's belonged for a long fucking time.
Dude, you anticipated 4 the first time ever in 40 years asking these. 4, who's cleaning it up?
No one.
5, is it serious?
Absolutely.
Wow. Frank said, I'm very serious about being not serious.
I like that. I believe it was maybe Tommy Tedesco who said humor is the one thing in life worth taking seriously.
Oh, Tommy Tedesco. Did he say it in the movie his son made?
No, I think I read it in a book where he basically said, I love this. He said in guitar playing, he said there's there's three aspects of guitar playing. You could play at home and think you're a champ. You're like, I'm flying. And you go out and play in public and you go, I was kicking ass at home and now I sound like an idiot. So he said there's three aspects of playing. He said there's playing by yourself, there's playing with other people, and there's playing with other people in front of other people. And one of the great lines, which the marketers don't want you to hear, is just because you own a pair of professional golf clubs doesn't make you a professional golfer.
Right. Tell me the Tommy. I love Tommy Tedesco. You know, he appeared on the Gong Show in a pink tutu.
I vaguely remember that. I think I have seen that. Yeah.
Frank talks about it. Tell me the Tommy line about Sirius once more. I love that.
He said, humor is the one thing in life worth taking seriously.
Worth taking seriously. Yeah. That is beautiful.
And the other line I like, you know, because people go, "Oh, Slim, you know, you're funny and you're a joker." And I said, yeah. I said, I take my humor very seriously. Number one, because when people laugh, they're broken out of whatever state they're in, and they're in an uplifted state. And never forget, I heard this from someone, that the jester was the number 2 guy in the King's Court.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very prestigious role. Yeah.
Make sure you see. Did you see my video called Frankie and Zimmy? It's about Frank Zappa and Bob Dylan when they met each other. In Jester and Gesture are in that little. It's just a 3-minute video about their meeting.
Excellent.
Yeah, because you just did did you say earlier? I thought this went by that Chomsky says he talks with his hands. I missed that. Yeah. Noam Chomsky said that. Yeah, because you were a DJ at MIT. Are you a fucking CIA agent also?
Exactly. Yeah. Correlation equals causation. That's the one solid takeaway I learned in college. That I remember.
Correlation. What? What's the verb?
No. The one solid thing that I remember in college, other than I had a hell of a good time, is that correlation does not equal causation. Yeah.
But does that have to do with MIT or Chomsky?
Sure. People go, oh, Chomsky was in MIT. He must be a CIA agent. You did radio there. What do you want? Herbert Walker's doll there? You're getting checks from HW.
Well, the other one is Slim. Can you go a little longer than 90 minutes?
I can. Yeah, I'm having a blast, brother. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because the other one is, do you know who Mae Brussel is?
Mae Brussel, I do not.
You don't know who she is?
No.
Make sure you Google it because she is the queen of conspiracy theories. So before conspiracy theories were totally kookified,
right,
she did the most amazing research. She cross-referenced the Warren Commission report from JFK. Yeah. The CIA would in Monterey. They would go to her front door and go, May, what do you know about this guy? And they would say that if you say anything about that on your radio show, we're going to kill your kids. And they killed one of their kids. Then they would go around to her back door and go, hey, what do you know about this guy? Because they knew she was an amazing information source. Well, guess what? Frank Zappa bought her or gave her first computer way back. And Johnny Frusciante, the lead guitarist for the Peppers, who I met on the Zappa hotline, who right here in this room, I weaned him to be one of the greatest guitarists ever. He delivered that computer with his stepdad to Frank's house, from Mae Brussel, from Frank's house
to Mae Brussel's. Amazing. Yeah.
But check her out. You can listen to her tapes. I mean, you'll think, oh, it's kooky. She says, you know, she runs through every major rock star, how they got bumped off. Bob Marley, it's endless. Hendrix, and it's all debatable how, you know, most of us know there's something fishy about Hendrix's death.
Sure.
In the
Michael Jeffries and right.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, she was a major researcher and Frank was a fan of hers and supporting her. That does not get mentioned in the fucking Zappa docs, which most of them suck. They try hard to be kind of good, but you know, anyways, sorry to go off. Here's the next question. How do you find peace of mind?
Personally, when I'm in the zone and I'm learning a guitar solo like this Miles Davis thing that I almost have down because I've that gives me clarity, peace, and focus.
Yeah. Well, did you see the Alex Gibney doc on Miles? Because I think it's Pee Wee Ellis says how he wrote So What? He co-wrote no, he co-wrote um either Papa's Got a Brand New Bag or Mama Popcorn with James Brown. He says, I was a jazz player, and this guy was paying me more than jazz, so I went and played with Miles. But I didn't want to play with. I mean, I went and played with James Brown.
Right.
I didn't want to play R&B. I wanted to be sophisticated and play jazz. But this guy paid more, so I went with James Brown. You know, and he had a long career with him. He tells how So What is the basis of a James Brown song.
Wow. I in the words, where's my pen? I don't. It's here somewhere.
No, yeah, because
I did not know that. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know a lot because when I told you, oh, do you know the riff from Johnny B. Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good is from T-Bone Walker? He says, you said to me this great line. You goes, Chuck Berry made a whole list of where he got all his riffs from.
And then he said, why do you think I'm some great shakes? This is I stole this. I stole this. I stole this. Yeah. You want to know where it comes from? There it is. So stop thinking I'm some great hero or some great shakes.
Right, but he is. But here's the thing: just get the documentary. It's probably free on YouTube. James Brown, whatever it's called, by Alex Gibney.
Gibney, single B or one B or two B's?
Gibney.
Okay.
It's one of the best docs because it doesn't accentuate his drug use and this or that. They talk about him as a musician.
Sure.
In fact, that's the problem with most of Zappa docs is, would you please stay away from this other stuff? Talk about him as a musician and a composer. That's
unless that's your focus, which was, of course, right. which was the which was the focus of the winter documentary. But the you know, as my buddy Andre said, isn't it funny? Okay, the one guy who was in Frank's band the longest, a guy named Ike Willis, never talked to. Maybe a still shot of him on the screen, and that was it.
No, I know there's major problems with that. Look, at some people liked it. And I'll tell you one thing, because I could go off on a ramble on it for hours. One person said, hey, I didn't know that about Frank. I loved it. I says, well, then it's an A+ movie. It turns you on to him. It's a D- movie because I can tell you a million problems. But one of them is they accentuated, well, he never hugged people. It's like, get the fuck over that. Ahmet went on KCRW right in Santa Monica radio promoting the film, saying, my dad hugged me. So he was countering, why would you take 90 minutes to talk about the great Frank Zappa and accentuate this thing that he didn't hug people?
Right.
Like, get over that. I mean, then why do you have background music in the movie by another composer? Everyone knows half of Frank's catalog sounds like movie music. Right. Why didn't you use some Frank's? Okay, but while we're on Frank, let's do this one. This is LA Free Press, 1969. You mentioned, they're interviewing Frank. You mentioned Pauline Oliveros. Her work was sound, above the audible and below the audible, creating a mass. And you said, Frank, you like that idea. Here's Frank's words. Not that it created a mass, it created something audible. It produced a some indifference tone, which happened to be located within the audible frequency range. By combining something so high you couldn't hear it and something so low you couldn't hear it, it yields something in the middle that you could hear. Whether or not you liked what you heard in the middle is another question. The concept is brilliant. Any thoughts on that sum indifference tone and audible frequency range he's talking about?
Oh, that's like some of his Frank St. Clavier compositions. I'm not that evolved yet to grasp that.
Yeah. And so a couple more and we're out of here, Slim.
Yeah.
This has really been fun. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Don't let the suckers get you down.
Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Under.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
An autobiography on me, Slim, a life. You want more than that?
No, say it again because you cut off. Say the title again.
The title would be Mighty Slim, a life well lived. Yeah.
Really good. They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
Patchouli.
Dude, you know where I got that question from is because Madonna scented her book, The Glue, with patchouli. So then I says, well, I'll just ask people what smell. You know what, George Clinton, I did the longest interview with George Clinton ever. He said, have you ever interviewed him?
No, I met George before. Yeah.
Yeah. When I asked him that, he said, fried chicken. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Where would it be displayed? It'd probably be next to the Jay Ward statue on Sunset.
Oh, I love that. And what would it be made of?
What would the Slim statue be made of? Potato chips.
Oh my God, what a great. Okay, Slim, tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Let's say that again.
Tell me something good, you never had it, but you never want it.
A girlfriend.
It's good, you never had it, and you never want it? That is an amazing answer. Okay, if you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I would leave the Trump rally.
That is a great answer. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Well, I would preface it by saying they once asked the great Howard Zinn. I was at, because he spoke like Chomsky all the time in Massachusetts. And someone said, Howard, all this horrible shit has been going on, and it's going on. And what gives you hope? Howard, who, of course, wrote a book, detail. He goes, horrible stuff has always been going on. But the reality is people have always resisted it.
Yeah.
So I think there's an awareness, and there's definitely awareness about diet and lifestyle. I think there's more awareness of things that people should be aware of, racism, things like that people are aware of, and for some people, the concept of, treating others with respect is like, okay, it's, I think people go, okay, I think it's more on some level, it can get to a ridiculous degree, but people have, it's more in their consciousness.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's a
really
good
cool.
thing.
I love that, Slim, because it is aware. I always say it's awareness level. We have the capability of being aware. And I love you bringing up Howard Zinn. All the people you brought up are my
Yeah.
heroes. Okay, what's a question that remains unresolved for you?
Why the hell am I still living in Sausalito?
Tell me how putting out your books, writing them,
Yeah.
shooting the photography, and being a musician has shaped your behavior.
How has it shaped my behavior?
Yeah.
Uh, it's given me confidence. It's given me joy. It's given me the in that regards the ability sort of to not to not not take myself so seriously, to not care what other people think. People trying to put you down. You go, did you write? Have you written 2 books? Have you done this, that, the other? Like to sort of the greatest one. I love this. So he was a Czechoslovakian Hare Krishna in Boston, and he once described the Man from Utopia cover. Now we all know the Man from Utopia cover with Frank with the fly swatter is basically from the riots in Italy. But this Hare Krishna described it to me as Frank as the superhero, and the flies with the fly swatter. He's swatting all the annoying flies, in the world, and that's why he's this big sort of superhero. So I think that I've basically been able through all that been able to have given myself a larger fly swatter to be able to swat the flies and not be so concerned about them. Get out of here, go away. Yep.
I love that. That's a beautiful album cover, and that's such your friend was very wise reading into it a deeper level.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you the joke I learned from Miroslav Vitus, the first bass player for Weather Report,
Sure.
who's a Czechoslovakian. He says, they call me Bounce because I'm one bad Czech. Okay, 2 more and we're out of here, Slim. This is Thornton Wilder in 1928. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
Probably attention.
Wow, way to be honest. That's what I think. Most humans are walking down the street going, hello, can you acknowledge me? I'm another human being. Could we get some eye contact?
Sure.
Yeah. What gives you the most optimism?
Knowing when you acknowledge your own personal power, that much in life can be accomplished, and through your own seeing your own seeing oneself overcome struggles in the past, and sort of viewing those, going, hey, you think this is difficult? Remember when you did that? And so your own when you acknowledge your own power and your own, like I said, ability to affect your success, then when you know that, and I've seen it, and we had an incident where we were trying to meet Robert Plant, and we saw a car pull up that was probably his at a hotel, and we went all the way around to the crosswalk, and then we went all the way, and by the time we took our 10 minutes to do that, he was already in his room and the car was gone. So that's a situation where I sort of acknowledge, if we had just made a beeline and jaywalked, we had a shot on goal. So once again, it harkens back to 85% of success and failure. Of course, there's other factors involved, but I would argue as high as 85% is up to the actions of the individual.
Yeah.
And the support mechanisms that, of course, we never want to discount the support mechanisms as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
No man is an island, and no one works in a vacuum. I remember in Boston there was a guy who was, every time I go back to Boston, I'm usually confronted with, unsolicited right-wing ridiculousness. And one time, I'm at a shop getting chips or something, and this guy turns around and he goes, "I'm a self-made man. I never needed anybody's help. I did it all myself." And I'm thinking, you pumped your own oil, you built your own vehicles, you built your own roads. Like, no, you didn't do it. You had no employees. You never paid anyone to do anything. Like, can we just, and I think Chomsky once said that, that's an important thing to drill into people's heads because it keeps people isolated.
Yeah. It
keeps people isolated. It's all about the individual. He goes, but in the corporate culture, corporations work together all the time. So that's for the layman to believe. The individual, when in reality, it's, everything, whether you want it to be or not, is a collective effort.
Yeah, it's really beautiful what you said, because it's how I sum up the end of these interviews is finding commonality and cooperation with others. Because the first question is, what's the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And that's what you said: mutual support, solidarity, inspiration to others. The last question is, what gives you the most optimism? That's what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. So, it's an amazing thing. Now, usually I end right there. Can we talk guitarist for a couple minutes, or you got to go?
Sure. Yeah.
Who's your favorite Jerry Garcia sub? Who was the first Jerry Garcia sub? And then who's your favorite?
My favorite Jerry Garcia sub. So someone to take the place of Jerry playing Grateful Dead songs.
Who was the very first to do it? Who'd they hire?
Who did they hire? I'm going to argue it was Warren Haynes and Jimmy Herring.
Jimmy Herring. That was the answer. Jimmy.
Okay.
Now who's your favorite?
Who's my favorite to do? Rich Calogero, a friend of mine who I played guitar with years ago. No one played, for my money. No one played Jerry better than Rich, and no one had his feel and especially rhythm than Rich Calogero. So I'm going with Rich.
K or C on the last name?
C. I think it's Coll. I think it's spelled as opposed to Call.
Yeah.
Jero is spelled with a G.
Who's your three favorite funk guitarist?
Three favorite funk guitarist. Geez, probably got to go with the first guys that come to mind are guys like Nile Rodgers, Jimmy Nolan, and probably go with Eddie Hazel.
Very good. And of all your particular guitar styling, who's the three cats that had the biggest influence on you? Like Frank usually says Guitar Slim, Hubert Sumlin, and Johnny Guitar Watson. Sometimes he says Clarence Gatemouth Brown. Yeah. Those are Frank's sort of saying. He always says, who's your favorite guitarist? He always says Alan Holdsworth. But the ones who influenced him and had the impact on him. By the way, you ever see Frank's business card? There it says master blues guitarist, composer.
It's funny because when I at a Pamela DeBoer party she said Alex Winter didn't pay anybody who was in the movie, but gave him memorabilia, from Frank's house. And I did get a business card. If I can find it, maybe I'll look at it. Yeah, but guitarist, Dickie Betts, probably Dickie Betts, Jerry Garcia, and number 3, probably Frank.
Yeah, that's good. Anyway, Slim, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time and energy. I learned a lot and it was fun. That's the most important thing. Even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends.
Can I give one final plug here? Yeah. So I have a book. I don't have a copy on me now. You can find it on Amazon. Frankly Speaking, Zappa Tales and Other Stories from the Maestro's Musicians. 10 interviews with alumni that played with Frank, from people like Ray White and Bobby Martin, to people you might not know their story, like Tom Bones Malone, Lisa Popeil, Sal Marquez. It is now available on Amazon and Barnes. I'm sure you can find it on the Barnes & Noble site. And
so when was it officially released?
What was that?
What's the date it was officially published?
Well, apparently my father bought a copy, and when I went to Amazon.com last night, it was up there. They had files that they needed corrected, and they told me that on Friday. So I imagine by today, if you order a copy on one of the online retailers, you will get the corrected copies.
So cool, Slim. Again, I appreciate all your writing and your book. I always love seeing you at Stinkfoot Orchestra concerts or any Zappa event. When you come to Venice, look me up and we'll hang out and talk. Because you know the greatest guitarist who is from Venice, California.
Robbie Krieger.
Jesse Ed Davis.
Of course, Jesse Edwin Davis. And on my YouTube channel, another cheap plug, Mr. Mighty Slim. There was a lot of people playing the Dr. My Eyes Jesse Ed solo, but no one showed you how to play it. And I'm like, well, what good is that? You watch something, you go, I want to be able to do that too. So anyway, I think my instructional video from the Mr. Mighty Slim YouTube channel of Dr. My Eyes has, I think, 15,000 views.
That's amazing, because do you know the story? Jesse Ed walked in and Jackson goes, here's how the song goes. He goes, you don't have to tell me. He played that in one take without hearing the song, and boom, it's a kind of guitar solo that people can sing.
Yep.
Yeah, he OD'd in a laundromat in Venice, California.
I remember once asking Taj Mahal, what do you remember about Jesse Ed Davis? He goes, oh, Jesse, I remember everything about Jesse Ed Davis. Whole world changed when he died.
Wow, because I asked Taj once, you played on a porch in LA for 45 minutes with Jimi Hendrix, and it's a tape, people can hear it. I says, who has that tape? The original tape.
Yeah.
He says, it's in Noel Redding's safety deposit box.
Well, time to go to England and break it out.
Slim, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Jerry. See you when the future gets here.